Is financial freedom in your future? You see, most people think they're on the right track, that they're trudging along. They do what's called the 40-45 plan. That's 40 hours a week for 45 years. And they hope by the age that they turn 65 years old that they're going to have this huge nest egg set aside. But the reality is this. Out of every 100 people, by the age of 65, only 4 are financially independent. Taking the safe road and doing nothing results in a 96% failure rate. Now, what we recommend that you do is take the road that's less traveled. The financially successful, or the 4%, most of them are business owners. Now, Robert Kiyosaki, one of the more famous authors in the world, wrote a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And he's very famous for a thing called the cash flow quadrant. Now, I'm not the best at this. I will give it to you in my, as I understand it. He basically says that everybody's in a part of the quadrant. He calls it the ESBI. E standing for employee, S for self-employed, B for business owner, and I for investor. We won't cover the investor side of it. Basically, it's where your money makes money. Now, an employee, this is where most people fall into, and that's where you're working for someone else. And they say that you'll never become wealthy working for someone else. But here's the true cost of that. You have no life, you have 40 hours a week, time away from family, traffic and commute, no control or freedom, no tax advantages. And so unfortunately, you pay a big chunk to the government that you can never get back. A self-employed, there's high risk, you got major startup capital, the business owns you, one location, basically you bought a job. In my simple understanding of that, I'll just use the example of a doctor. While a doctor is working and on call and all that, he's making lots of money, but as soon as he goes on vacation, he doesn't get paid. So that's a self-employed. Now, a business owner would be like having that same doctor, but this time the doctor owns a practice and there's 10 doctors working for him, and he makes a percentage or makes some for each one of those doctors. That's a business owner. What we're showing you here today is to own your own business from home, and it's got all the positives. It's the perfect business model. It has unlimited income potential, flexible work schedule. You get mentors and advisors to help you along the way. You have a low startup cost, residual income. It's recession-proof, tax advantages, amazing things. And you don't have all the negatives, no handling, shipping, deliveries, lease, rent, insurance, employees, all the things that come along with it. Now that we've established that a business is definitely the way to go, what I'd like to do is introduce you to a concept. I want you to pretend that I can grant you one wish, but you only have two choices. And the first choice is that I will give you $1 million. Or choice 2 is that I'll give you 1 cent that doubles every day for 31 days. But you have to drive 1 hour to visit a friend of mine named Vendela, and she will double your cent and give you 2 cents, and you drive all the way back home. Then on the next day, you take your 2 cents, you drive all the way back to Vendela 1 hour, and she doubles your 2 cents and gives you 4 cents, and you drive back. Well, you do that every day for 31 days, which would be better, that or having $1 million? Well, for me, as a factory worker, $1 million for me, please. Who wants to drive around for pennies? And so let's begin. In day 1, you'd have 1 cent. Day 2, you'd have 2 cents, and then you double, and that becomes 4 cents, and that becomes 8 cents, and 16, and 32, and 64, and by the 10th day, that would give you $5.12. How embarrassing if you took the penny. Well, let's see what happens in day 11. Well, 5 doubles and becomes $10.24, and that doubles becomes $20.48. That doubles becomes $40.96, $81.92, $163.84, $327, and by the 20th day, that's $5,242.88. Still not looking too good considering there's only 11 days left in the program. But what happens in day 21? Well, 5,000 doubles and becomes 10,000. That doubles and becomes 20,000, and that doubles becomes 41,000, and then it doubles and becomes 83,000, then it doubles and becomes 167,000, then 335,000, 671,000, and in the 28th day, that doubles and becomes $1.3 million. But wait, we didn't agree to 28 days, did we? We agreed to 31 days. So 1.3 doubles and becomes 2.6. That doubles and becomes 5.3. And on the final day of our agreement, $5.3 million doubles and becomes $10.7 million. Now who's laughing all the way to the bank? When Einstein was asked what he thought one of the most powerful things on the planet, he said that he believed that the 8th wonder of the world was compound interest. And so how do we make compound interest work for you? This is what I call the show me the money formula. If you can answer yes to these 3 questions, then we can show you how you can harness the power of compound interest. Question 1 is, do you want to make a lot of money, and do you know why? You see, the why is possibly the greatest secret of all time. My good friend Del Williams taught me this secret, which is called the law of attraction. And it says that you will attract to you, like a powerful magnet, people, circumstances, and events based on your dominant thought. Now, your dominant thought is basically that thought which you think about all the time with emotion or with passion. Unfortunately, 92% of the population's dominant thoughts are things that they fear and don't want. You know, like, how am I going to pay the bills this month? Or I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. You get the idea. Now, since that is what they think about with emotion all the time, that is what they will attract to you. That's the law. And that is why I teach the principles of Jack Zufeld, who is considered to be one of the top trainers in the world. He was awarded the Presidential Medal of Merit, and he gets up to $5,000 an hour on the phone. Well, he identified the key element in turning on that magic switch that gets you all that your heart desires by simply identifying at 100% with every fiber of your being that which you want the most, or as Jack calls it, your core desire, the why. So again, question 1 is, do you want to make a lot of money, and do you know why? Question 2 is, do you have or can you get $200? And question 3 is, do you know 5 people that can answer yes to these 3 questions? Now, you should have been given a graph. It's actually called the Show Me the Money worksheet. If you don't, then just follow along, and you can even draw this out. Now, on here, as you can see, we have percentages, case value, commission, question number 3, and group size, and total. Under where it says case value, I want you to write $120 in each column, all the way down. Now, in any business, you would have the value of your product, and then you would get a percentage of it. And in this particular instance, it's the same. So, if you look at the first line there, we get 20% of $120. Well, that gives us $24. The next line, number 2, we get 5% of $120, which is $6. In the third row, we get 5% again, which is $6. Fourth one, we get 5%, which is $6. And then the fifth row there, 10%, which is $12. Now we know how much we get when product is moved on different levels. Let's now look at the second half of our formula. At the top of the page, it says question number 3 in group size. Well, what was question number 3? Question number 3 was, do you know 5 people by the following week that can answer yes to these 3 questions? Let's assume that you did what you said you'd do. You handed out enough DVs, had a few chats, and all of a sudden we were able to find those 5. So write down 5. And there you have it. There's our formula. Starting from the left side of the page on the first row, we get 20% of $120, which is $24. We brought 5 people into the organization, so 5 times $24 is $120. Now let's go to the second week. Now remember, this can be weeks, months, or years. This is strictly a formula. We get 5% of $120, which is $6. Now here is one of the secrets. Last week was your first week in the business. You said yes to question number 3, which is, do you know 5 people by the following week that can answer yes to these 3 questions? This is now your second week in the business. So how many people do you think you personally have to bring into the organization? Most say 5 or 10. In actual fact, it's 0. You said you did what you said you would do. You said you could get those 5. This is now those 5 people's first week. So they all said yes to question number 3, which is, do you know 5? So 5 times 5 is 25. So there you have it. We get $6 each on that row. We get 25 people, so 25 times $6 is $150. Let's go to the third week. We get 5% of $120, which is $6. Last week was those 25 people's first week. They all said yes to question number 3, do you know 5? 5 times 25 is $125. We get $6 each on that level, so $6 times 125 people gives us $750. Let's go to the fourth week. We get $6 each there. This is now those 125 people's first week in the business. They all said yes to question number 3. 125 times 5 is 625. We get $6 each, which gives us $3,750. Now, I generally don't like to go down to the next level, but we'll continue anyways. We get $10 each, or 10% of $120, which is $12. So we get double commissions. But have a look at that. That's 625 people's first week. They all said yes to the same 3 questions. Do you know 5? 5 times 625 is 3,125 people. We get $12 each, which gives us $37,500. If you were to add up all 5 weeks, that would give you a grand total of $42,270. But here's the catch. That's in a perfect world. That's if you get your 5, who get their 5, who get their 5, who get their 5, who get their 5. But we don't live in a perfect world. You might be able to get your 5, but 5 might get 1. 1 might get 2, 2 might get none. So what if we said, let's do what Bill Gates said. Bill Gates said the 3 keys to his success were: 1, being at the right place at the right time; 2, having a vision where the industry is going; and 3 is, and most important, was taking immediate and massive action. So let's assume we took that immediate massive action. We worked really hard for that 5 weeks, and we fell short of $42,270 by 90%. Would 10% of $42,270 be worth a $200 investment, a few phone calls, and some time? Well, that would give you $4,227. Well, let's say we didn't even do that good. Cut that figure in half. Would $2,113.50 be worth that money and time? Well, let's cut that in half again. Would $1,056 be worth it? And let's even cut it in half one more time. Would $528.37 be worth a $200 investment, a few phone calls, and some time? Most would definitely agree, yes.